Oh, 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 oh. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamrita Varshini Bhagavati Ashtadashadhyayani Amba Tvamanusandadami Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshini Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavai Vedai Sangha Padakramopanishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam na vidutsura surganaha Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha. Om Shri Ganeshaya namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo namaha. Hari Om. So the 14th chapter mainly deals with the topic of Gunas. It starts with Bhagavan's description of the glory of this knowledge of daily study of Bhagavad Gita, how important that is, and then also how this world came about, what was creation. And then Bhagavan Sri Krishna tells us about the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Sattva represents purity, knowledge, wisdom, and Rajas represents passion, competition, uh, activity, selfishness, all those things. And Tamas, of course, is the worst, representing laziness, heedlessness, alasya, nidra, pramada, etc. And then what are the qualities of these three gunas? Those are mentioned very beautifully, that when there is light shining means the light of knowledge, the light of wisdom comes from such an individual, then one should know this individual is sattvic. And this sattva, rajas, tamas can be our predominant gunas, like a person may be predominantly sattvic, predominantly rajasic, predominantly tamasic, or it could be that in the day also I may go through, as I have said before, you may be very sattvic in the morning doing some puja, meditation. Then your day starts, you get active, and then at the end of the day, you need tamas. So all three are required for an individual to function, and this whole universe, this whole prakriti is said to be collection of these three gunas. These three gunas have This entire creation is made out of that, sattva, rajas, and tamas. And we are all a mixture of these three qualities, sattva, rajas, and tamas. And the question is, which one is predominant in me, and how can I stay as much as possible in a sattvic mood, in a sattvic mode, where my actions are pure, their actions are born out of right knowledge, wisdom obtained from the teacher, obtained from the guru. And that is that is the purpose of this. That's why this chapter is very practical. It tells us how one should live our life. And then also, what is the outcome? And it is said that those who are in the sattvic mood predominantly go upwards. Not only in this life they evolve spiritually, but even in afterlife, they go to higher worlds. Those who predominantly live a life of rajas, which is mixed, some activity, but then some selfishness, then they are reborn on this earth, and depending on which one is more, they may get upper or lower births. Of course, the sattvic people also, unless they have attained enlightenment, they will go to higher worlds, heavens, and so on, and then come back to this earth. And then the tamasic people, of course, go downwards. Not only in this life they deteriorate, but also their subsequent births could happen in a lower yoni, even in an animal or a bird, or depending on their so that is the outcome. And Bhagavan says all three can bind us. And how does sattva bind us? We have talked about that. Sattva binds with knowledge and with sukham. So that means when I'm in a sattvic mood, I get very quiet, very peaceful, and then I get attached to that, and I want that all the time. And why am I not able to have that peace? And then I get disturbed when this peace gets disturbed. So that is also a bondage. Also, knowledge can bind us by creating arrogance, that I know more than others, or I am smarter than others. So, or I am more spiritual than others. That's a very subtle ego, but that is there in people who think I am more spiritual, I attend more classes, I go to the temple more often, I do more karma yoga. So it can bind you with that. And rajas binds with passion, with karma, with attachment to action, and I want this. And if I don't have it, my life is incomplete. And no matter how many people I cheat and steal, I must get it. So that is the rajasic bondage. And tamas bondage, of course, is the worst. It's bondage by laziness, attachment to alasya, nidra, and pramada. So I don't care, and I am lazy, and I sleep all the time. Or sleep means ignorance. So they live their life of ignorance. So all three gunas can bind us. So a person thinks, well, then if that is the case, then why are we studying Bhagavad Gita? I'm bound anyway. My life is gone. I mean, I'm not going to be able to get out. They say even sattva binds, even rajas binds, even tamas binds. So a person could get disheartened, and Bhagavan Sri Krishna saw in Arjuna's face, as in all of us, that in that case, what is the purpose of studying this knowledge, and how can I get out of this bondage? See, a doctor, when you go to a doctor, and first of all, you go with your symptoms, and then he will do some lab tests and say, okay, your symptoms and my physical exam and these lab tests show that you are suffering from this particular disease. It could be pneumonia, it could be gastroenteritis, whatever. But then you say, okay, Bhagavan, doctor, what is the cure? He said, well, cure, I don't know. For that, you need to go to some other doctor. You say, well, I'm not coming to this guy next time because he tells me the problem. He doesn't tell me the cure. So Bhagavan Sri Krishna is a perfect doctor. Not only he diagnoses our conditions exactly, but gives the most beautiful cure for this problem. So the next few shlokas in this chapter all deal with how to get out of this bondage, and then what are the qualities of a wise person, what Bhagavan Sri Krishna calls as gunatit. So that those will be studied in the next 2 or 3 weeks, where we will cover the solution to this problem of gunas. So we'll chant chapter 14, shloka number 19. Okay. Nanyam gunebhya kartaram.
Nanyam gunebhyah kartaram.
Yada drashtanupashyati.
Yada drashtanupashyati.
Gunebhyascha param veti.
Gunebhyascha param veti.
Madbhavam sodhigacchati.
Madbhavam sodhigacchati.
All together, Ramaben can please mute. Nanyam gunebhya kartaram. Yada drashtanupashyati. Gunebhyascha param veti. Madbhavam sodhigacchati. So here, Bhagwan is telling us how to get out of this bondage of gunas. Two very beautiful shlokas of what is the step-by-step analysis of this, that how can I get out of bondage and go towards the highest. And then the third shloka today is Arjuna's question. So na anyam, na means no, that is in all languages. Anyam means no other. Gunebhyaha, that is the fifth case, other than the gunas, no other doer, kartaram. So na gunebhya anya kartaram. So one who sees, yada, one who sees that everything is happening because of gunas. All our activities, the whole nature, whole creation is only that of the gunas. And all activities happen because of prakriti, because of nature. Yada, one who sees not only who is working, but who is the witness, drashta. So the consciousness, which is the substratum of this universe, which is the constant witness, drashta anupashyati. Pashyati means sees, anupashyati means sees constantly, all the time. Or anu also means having got knowledge from the teacher, then he sees the seeker. So anu can mean both. One is continuously, one means after. So after having knowledge from the teacher, then this individual constantly, his or her focus is not on the world. He functions in the world, but the attention is on the drashta, on the seer, on the witness, on the consciousness. And such a person understands that is my true nature. And we'll talk about that today. And then what happens once he has functioned in such a way, gunebhya cha param veti, then the gunas, and he sees that param veti, that which is beyond the gunas. What is that state of consciousness? Because we are so caught in prakriti that we don't know there is something higher than prakriti. But such an individual who gets this knowledge from the teacher, then he or she goes beyond the bondage of these gunas, reaching the highest, and that is what? Madbhavam. Bhagavan says, that is my being, saha adhigacchati. Such an individual, adhigacchati means he attains to my being. When Bhagavan Shri Krishna says me or my, he does not only mean the flute player of Vrindavan, the teacher of the Bhagavad Gita, but he's identifying with the total consciousness, the self of all. So when he says aham or mama, that is what he means. So because people always say, well, why does Krishna, Bhagavan say, come to me, don't go to anybody else? When he says me, he means the self of all. So one who sees gunas as doing the activity, but there is an actionless self, which is constantly present, and that is my true nature. When he goes beyond all those, then he reaches me, Bhagavan Shri Krishna says. So in this commentary, Gurudev has given some beautiful examples, and we can also There are similar examples. The example I was thinking about is a river. There is a fast flowing river. Lately, we don't see that in the Kern River, but in the days when we used to have water. So if you're standing in the river on slippery rocks, then you will be pulled along by the river. But if you stand on the bank of the river, you can watch the flow of water beautifully and enjoy the flow of water. In same way, Gurudev talks about the train, that if you are in the train, you are caught and pulled. But if you are a witness, you're standing on the platform, you can watch the train. And that is meditation. Because in meditation, what we do is we detach from everything, watch the activities of the body, watch the activities of the mind and the intellect, and watch how my vasanas are affecting my actions, but I am beyond all those. So the ability to withdraw from all of these and stay focused on the seer, who is the knower of this, is meditation. And in the Gurudev's BMI chart, where we have Om on top and then V for vasanas, most of you I'm sure remember that, and then body, mind, intellect, perceiver, feeler, thinker, objects, emotions, and thoughts. BMI, PFT, OET. So this whole world consists of body perceiving the objects, mind feeling the emotions, and intellect thinking the thoughts. And whatever objects we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, what we feel, think, and the vasanas, the desires which cause this, which is the causal body. We'll talk about that a little later in the next shloka. So one who is caught in this bondage of these gunas and these vasanas then gets stuck. And then every day, every night, we are doing the same things, same mistakes. But one who knows that I am that self, I am that Om, that consciousness, then the person is not affected by what is happening. The person always keeps his or her mind connected to God. And Gurudev, of course, in this commentary is very beautiful. I would request everybody to read it. Gives the example of the bucket where there is the sunlight, which is, of course, the sun is far away, but here the consciousness is with us all the time. But it is the consciousness reflecting in the mind and intellect which illumines, just as the sunlight in the bucket of water and project the light. And depending on the quality of the water, if the water is clean, that is sattvic. If the water is agitated, that is rajasic. And if the water is muddy, it is tamasic. So the idea is that keep your bucket clean, keep your mind and intellect clean, pure, and in sattva as much as possible. And then Bhagavan says that individual comes to me. Mat bhavam saha adhi gacchati. He attains me, he comes to me, he becomes one with me, which is the description of an enlightened master. So that's what he says, that such a person comes to me. And for that, a very important quality beside the correct knowledge from the Guru is vairagya, detachment. And in the Ramayana, there is a very beautiful episode of Rama Gita, which is in the Aranya Kand. And one time Sita ji was tired. She had gone to bed early. It was, night had started and it was dark, very quiet, peaceful. And Ramchandra ji was sitting in a very quiet state of mind, enjoying the trees and the silence, of the forest at that time. And Lakshman ji saw that this is the right time to approach Bhagwan. See, that's what happens when you approach your teacher. You should approach at the right time with the right attitude, with humility. You don't send him a WhatsApp message, oh teacher, oh guru, can you tell me about Brahman? That's not how you approach your teacher. You sit down and very humbly you ask. So Lakshman ji sees a right opportunity. Ramchandra ji is relaxed. He's not doing anything. He's sitting there and very humbly he asks, Kahahu Jnana Vairagya. Oh Bhagwan, can you please tell me the essence of Jnana and Vairagya? And those who think that Ramcharit Manas is only a story are sadly mistaken, because every episode is full of knowledge. Anything, even when Lakshmanji talks to, Nishad Raj, or when anytime they is full of knowledge. So here I'll just give a couple of points. So Ramchandraji says, what is a jnana? Jnana man jaha ekahu nahi, dekha brahma samana sab mahi. So what is true knowledge? That you should have no mana, you should have no arrogance, no pride that I am somehow better than others. I am more holy, or I have more knowledge, or I am smarter, or I am richer, or I am more beautiful, or I am more successful. So because every achievement, dekhahu brahma samana sammahi, there is only one Brahman who is the cause of everything. So whatever I am seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, walking, talking, holding, all my accomplishments are due to that. And that is jnanam. When there is no pride of arrogance, there is no idea that I am somehow superior or I am better. And seeing that one God in everybody, the idea of oneness. Oneness means that, of course, there's a difference between dog, cat, and human and mosquito. But the substratum of all is one, Brahman. And that's what Ramchandraji tells him, that see God everywhere. See Brahman in everything, whether it's in the trees, in the forest, even in the demons, even with Ravana or any of the demons. Ramchandraji never felt that this was an enemy. Even after Ravana dies, he tells Lakshmana that we have lost a great knower. He was so knowledgeable. So Ramchandraji even had respect for him. Why? Because he could see that one Brahman in everybody. And so that is jnanam. And then he asked about vairagya, and he says, kahahu tat parama vairagi trinat samasiddhi trini gunatyagi. So he says, what is vairagya? What is vairagya? It's like I am say, watching my kids soccer. We used to go sit down, watch soccer, and sit on a little carpet, put a little mat and sit on the floor. And then as they are playing soccer, you take, these little blades of grass and you start playing with them and breaking them into tiny pieces. And some of the grass gets on your pants or on your clothes, from sitting and all. So when you get up, what do? Do you hold on to those pieces? No, you just jharde, you just clean the grass and get up. So similarly, Ramchandraji says, any accomplishment you have, just drop it like as a blade of grass, because that is vairagya, where everything is that alone and nothing belongs to me. Nothing belongs to me. Everything belongs to Bhagwan. All my siddhis, all my accomplishments, all trinasama, just as you throw up grass from your pants, similarly, all siddhis do not belong to me. That is vairagya. So jnana is seeing the one, and vairagya is not holding on to anything, not even my possessions, my wealth, nothing. Everything belongs to that. So that is the essence of this Rama Gita. And what they say is that this world that you are seeing is Maya, is illusion. It is the play of Maya. Even though there is one Brahman, Dekhahu Brahma Samana, only one, but all this name and form are illusion, because created by Maya for us to experience the variety of the world, not to get caught in the world, but to experience the variety. So illusion is showing us what is not. We don't see Brahman and we see the variety. That is illusion. So creating something where it is not there, that is called Maya. That is called illusion. So this reminds me of a story. So there was this boy who was a junior in high school, and he was, filling out his college applications. And he asks his mother, I need to increase my resume, otherwise I won't get into a good college. Do you remember any good things I have done all these years? Mother thinks. And she says, you know what? When you were 3 years old, you were in the preschool Olympics. They have preschool Olympics, and there was the five people in a race, one-legged race, where you had to hop on one leg, and you were third, and so you got a bronze medal. You got a bronze medal in that preschool Olympics. So he wrote down on his resume, 1 Olympic medal. What else? He said, I won Olympic. So that is illusion, where he's making up things. But that is what Maya does, makes us see things that are not there. And that is what Bhagavan tells us, Prakriti kriyamana hi guna sarvani sarvasha ahankar vimudatma karta ham iti manyate. Even though Prakriti is doing all of these, my true nature is unaffected. I am Brahman, but I get caught in this bondage of Prakriti. And one who goes beyond it becomes a great Mahatma, whether it's Buddha or whether it is Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda, Vivekananda, Ramakrishna, Paramhans, Narsimhat. So all these great saints and Mahatmas have gone beyond Prakriti and always live in that state of nirvana, the state of oneness with that totality, because they know that I am the non-doer. Guna guneshu vartante iti matvana sajjate. Bhagavan says in the Gita that understand that gunas are functioning with gunas. My gunas are interacting with her gunas or his gunas, but I am beyond and I don't get attached. And that is the essence of this teaching of this particular shloka. And how do I achieve it? So Bhagavan says, increase sattva. Keep your mind as much as possible in sattvic thoughts, in sattvic ideas, remembering God, and doing all activities dedicated to God without I and my, and reduce rajas. Not that you don't work, but you work with the idea that it is God's work. And that is sattva. We are not saying that you should give up work, but work with all activities dedicated to God, which Bhagavan already said in the 3rd chapter, Karma Yoga, that unselfish work without I and my, dedicated to the higher. But keep part of your attention all the time on the non-doer, akarta, the witness, the witnessing consciousness. And that is what Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji tells us in Nirvan Shatka Mano Buddha Hankar Chitta Ninaham. I am not this body, mind, intellect. Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham. I am that supreme consciousness, which is of the nature of Sat, Chit, and Anand, auspiciousness, bliss, and permanent existence. And so you detach from the changing and focus on the changeless. Detach from the seen and focus on the seer, drashta, one who sees. So another example they give is you see waves in the water, right? So you say waves are rising and falling, waves are rising and falling. And you are sitting on the beach and enjoying that on the sand. And then your attention shifts from waves are rising and falling to water is rising and falling. So your thinking has become a little subtler. And the third level is water alone is. There is nothing except water. These waves are just an appearance upon the name and form. The name and form, and water has been given names like current and wave and whirlpool and tornado and all. But actually it is water and water alone. So that is the how you shift your attention from the name and form to the substratum. What is it? And same way in our life, constant attention to, in the path of bhakti, constant attention to my Ishta Devta. In the path of Jnanam, constant attention to the self. But ultimately, both of them result in oneness, where me and my Ishta Devta is one, or me and that consciousness is one. So that is called Madbhavam. That's what Bhagavan says. Such a person merges with me, becomes one with me. So very, very beautiful shloka. This shloka, I think everybody should
Read the commentary.
yeah. Read the commentary, understand the word by word meaning, read it at your leisure, carefully read this shloka, and then try to apply that. So that is the idea, that study this shloka very carefully and try to bring it into our life. Very, very practical shloka. So now we'll do shloka number 20. Gunanetanatityatvin
गुणानेतानतीत्यद्वित्री
Dehi deha samudbhavan
देही देह समुद्भवान्
janma mrityu jara dukkaihi
जन्म मृत्यु जरा दुःखैः
vimukto mritam ashnute.
विमुक्तो मृतमश्नुते.
So then Bhagavan is now telling us how to go beyond or altogether. So altogether, gunanetanatityatreen dehi deha samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukkaihi vimukto mritam ashnute. So now Bhagavan is giving us step by step how to go beyond the bondage of gunas. So gunan etan. Etan means these three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, treen. Atitya means having crossed. This is lyap pratyaya. Those who are doing Sanskrit class will be talking about that tomorrow. So this having gone beyond atitya, these three gunas, then dehi. Dehi has two meanings. One is dehi is the subtle body, the individuality, the jiva that is occupying this body. That is one meaning of dehi. Another meaning of dehi is the consciousness, the Atman, which is at this moment identified with this particular body and thinks I am this body out of ignorance. So the goal of life is for the subtle body, the jiva, the individuality, to recognize my true nature, that I am of the nature of Sat Chit Anand. So that's why Dehi has two meanings. And even the second chapter, Bhagavan tells Arjuna, Dehi Nityam Avadyoham Sarva Dehesh Shubharata. Oh Arjuna, this consciousness is never killed, never perishes, and that is yours and my true nature. That is what Bhagavan is telling us, starting from the second chapter itself. So this Dehi, which has crossed over this bondage of gunas and knows itself to be the consciousness. And what is this Deha? This body is Samudbhavan. It is the creation of these three gunas. So this gross body that I'm seeing and my subtle and causal body are all made of the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. But I am beyond all three gunas. So that understanding when he has or she has, then what happens? Janma, mrityu, jara, dukkhaihi. The sorrows of birth, death, and old age. So, okay, death we understand is sorrow, old age is sickness, is sorrow. How is birth sorrow? Birth is sorrow because the jiva, what does the first thing the child does? Cries. You know why? Are main fir fas gaya. You know, I thought I was free and now I am back in this world and I have go through all this toilet training and diaper and ABC and teacher will hit me, mother will scold me. Again, I'm stuck. So the poor jiva cries. We celebrate, there is a kid born, but actually it is not anything to celebrate. Not that one should not be happy when you have a child, but the true thing is that it is sorrowful because again, I have to go through another 60, 70, 80, 90 years and all the sicknesses and all the, why do that? You know, whenever you get this knowledge, try to withdraw. So Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Dukkaihi. So Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Bhagavan has used, but there are 6. Asti, Jati, Jayati, Vardate, Parinamyate, Apakshyati, Vinashyate. So Asti means it is. Then Jayati, then it is born. It appears in the mother's womb, it is born. Then Vardate, after birth, then the child grows. Then Parinamyate, then it changes. Everything changes. My body gets older, my hair changes, my face changes, everything changes. Parinamyate, apakshiyate, and slowly my abilities go down. My ability to run, my ability to walk, talk, think. Slowly it gets less. That is the nature of everything, and then vinashyati, then it ends. Same thing, a car, you buy it is brand new, slowly it gets older and older, weaker and weaker, and ultimately it goes into the junkyard. So that is happens to all of us. So Bhagavan says, one who has gone beyond these 3 gunas and realizes that the body is nothing but these 3 gunas, and I am that consciousness, janma, mrityu, jara, dukkhahi, all sorrows, vimuktaha. Muktaha means free, vimukta means visheshana mukta, completely free of all the sorrows of birth, death, and so on. Amritam ashnute, he enjoys immortality. So we'll talk about what is this immortality. So Dehi, we already talked about that Navadware Pure Dehi Naiva Kurvan Nakaryan. So this individuality lives in this city of 9 gates, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, 2 ears, mouth, 7 and 2 below. So 9 holes are what this body is. That is the Dehi, the one who is the occupier. Like I live on Panorama Drive, so I become the resident of Panorama Drive of my house. So similarly, I become the resident of this body, that is Dehi. But I suffer the tyrannies of the world. Say, oh, world has so many problems. I have physical problems, I have knee problem, then I have mental problem, I have stress, and then I have, I don't understand, I can't memorize Sanskrit shlokas. So all these, world sorrows, all these tyranny, we inflict upon ourselves. Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? So that is all the tyranny of the world. And the thing is that everybody has certain things that they are good in. So focus on what you are good in instead of focusing on what I cannot do, because the world can only tyrannize you if you allow it to. But if I realize that I am a perfect, that's what they say, every child is a new thought of God. My mother had one time told me, she said, every child is a new thought of God, that every child is Bhagavan himself manifesting, and that is same child becomes an adult. So if you see that one God in everybody, then such a person goes beyond the tyranny of the world. Then you cannot say, oh, I have problems. It is all Bhagavan's Leela, and that is why it is happening. And why do I go through this problem? So they say there are 3 factors: Ajnana, Kama, and Karma. Not knowing that I am that infinite consciousness, this Brahman who at this moment is occupying this body. And whether my name is Anil or Lata or Kusuma, and male, female, those are all the forms I am occupying, but I am that consciousness. So that when I have that ignorance, Ajnanam, that I am not perfect, and by getting that I will become perfect, then that is Kama. So Ajnanam leads to Kama, that I don't have it, and by getting that I will be perfect. And then that leads to Karma, right? Ajnanam, Jnana, and then Karma. And then I try to get what I don't have, thinking that by getting that I will become complete. Right now I am not complete, but only if I have that, then I will become. And it could be anything. It could be a skill, could be money, could be a power, could be position, could be even a person. Oh, I don't have this person, but if I get that, I'll be happy. Or I have this person, when this person leaves, I'll be happy. So all those things are tyrannizing us. So that's what they say, that is uh, the problem, and one who goes beyond that enjoys immortality. So you mean immortality means a realized master will never die? If he dies, then he was not realized? No, because whoever has taken this body has to leave. It could be the child could leave at 6 minutes or 6 months or 60 years or 100 years, but sooner or later, we all have to drop. Even Bhagwan, when came as Bhagwan Ram or Sri Krishna, when the time was over, they left the body, they dropped it. So immortality does not mean living in this body forever, because that is not immortality, because that is actually punishment. If you live in this body after a certain age, you say it's okay, it's done now, I have to move on. But immortality is to realize that in essence, I am immortal. I never perish. This body will go, and such a person willingly drops the body. When it is time to go, when my prarabdha is over, understand that there is this immortal self. That is one meaning of immortality. Also, it means that a person who has become enlightened becomes immortal. Like no matter how many thousand years pass, we will always remember Buddha. We will always remember Jesus Christ, Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda. Even hundreds of years from now, wherever there is a Chinmaya mission, they will remember Swami Vivekananda. So these great saints become immortal because they're always remembered, their teachings are always followed. So immortality means they do not perish in the hearts of their followers, their devotees. And that is called perfection. The person who lives such a life of perfection, withdrawing from these worldly attachments, always focused on that. And that is called nishtha. Nishtha means firm abidance in that truth, where nothing can shake him. Such a person lives a life of perfection, lives a life of ideal life, which you and I should follow. So this oneness, this can come also in sleep, right? In sleep, I experience nothing but bliss, peace. But a wise person experiences that even while awake. Even while awake, when the world is giving all those problems, still this wise person, yeah, that's what they say, Bhagavan says, Ya Nisha Sarva Bhutanam Tatha Jagrati Sanyami. So one who sees darkness, everybody is asleep, but he is awake. What it means is we are all asleep to this, our higher nature. And we are in the sleep of ignorance, but the wise person has awoken to that. And what we are awake to, this world, this world is so beautiful. He doesn't think, not that he doesn't work in the world, but he doesn't give too much importance to this world. It does not mean that he still has to deal with all the worldly problems. He still has to stand in line to, board the plane and fill out a passport and all those things. But he understands that that is just required. That is Prakriti. And his attention is always on the light of consciousness, which is illumining all these activities. Whatever is going on is illumined by that light of consciousness, which itself is unaffected. Like in a movie, there is a light which is projecting and on, and the film going through, there could be a hero, heroine, villain, there could be good and bad actions going on, but the light continuously illumines all. It does not say, I will only show the hero, I will not show the villain. This world is a variety, so it shows all that, but itself is not affected. So similarly, one who has become one with the light of consciousness, then functions in the world and sees that the world will have good and bad people, good and bad events, good and bad happenings. Nothing is ever going to be perfect or complete, but only thing complete is Bhagwan, and that is my true nature. So I am not separate from God. So if you want to look for perfection, find it within. Find it within God, or the God that is in all beings. That's when you're walking, you see that Isha Vasyam Idagam Sarvam. We are studying in Isha Vasya Upanishad. That everything I see, plants, trees, animals, cars, everything is that Isha. So that is the vision of this wise person. So Arjuna was so inspired, that, oh, is it possible to reach that state of uh, going beyond gunas? Oh, is that possible? He got all excited. And then he asks, beautiful three questions, which then Bhagwan will answer, and we'll cover those next week. So we'll just do the questions today. The answers will be next week because it's in 6 shlokas. This has been answered in 6 shlokas. So we are not going to cover the answers today, just the questions. Chapter 19, shloka number 21. Arjuna asks 3 very beautiful questions. Arjuna uvacha.
Arjuna Uvacha
Kairlingai strin gunan etan.
Kairling Gaistrin Gunaneta
Atito bhavati prabho.
Atito Bhavati Prabho
Kimachara katham chaitan.
Kimachara Chakatham Chaitan
Trin gunanati vartate.
Trin Gunanati Vartate.
Together. Arjuna uvacha. Kailingai strin gunanetan. Atito bhavati prabho. Kimachara katham chaitan. Trin gunanati vartate. Beautiful questions by the student Arjuna uvacha. Uvacha is past tense. Arjuna spoke. And this was long time ago. That's why they said uvacha, because it happened a few thousand years ago. So remote past, they call it. So Arjuna asked, Kaihi lingais trin gunan etan. So kai lingai, he means, what are the signs? What are the symbols? How can we know a wise person who etan trin gunas, who has gone atitaha. Atitaha means who has gone beyond etan trin gunan bhavati, who has become beyond these 3 gunas. O Prabhu, O Bhagwan, Arjuna asks that what is the signs that will, or the indications of a person who has gone beyond the 3 gunas? How can I recognize somebody? So again, this is not that you judge others, but when you see somebody who is that evolved and that, like a great teacher like Pujya Gurudev or Swami Tejomayananda Ji, then you see how they work in the world, how they function, having gone beyond the bondage of these 3 gunas. How can I recognize such a person, and how can I recognize it in myself that I am progressing beyond the bondage of these 3 gunas? So what are the signs of such an individual? Linga means indicator or pointer. We'll talk about that. So what is the indication of such an individual who has gone beyond gunas, O Bhagwan, O Prabhu? So that is one question. How can I recognize this individual? Second is Kim Achara. Achara means his conduct. How does he or she function in the world? Even though we find that enlightened masters may function differently based on their qualities of what of prakriti, but their understanding is one. It's like the top of the mountain is one. Now, whether you go by car or whether you go by road or whether you walk or go by horse or you take a helicopter, but when you reach the top of the mountain, the experience of all is the same. So all these realized masters, they may function differently, but their experience is one. So Kim Achara, and that is the second question. How does he function in the world? Katham cha etan 3 gunan ati vartate. And how can an individual, katham, how? Etan 3 gunas, of these 3 gunas, how can I cross over? So Arjuna is asking 3 questions. What is the indications of this wise person? How does he or she function? And how can I also learn from this and go beyond. So as we see that Gurudev says it very beautifully, that in our Upanishads and in our scriptures, the student has complete freedom to ask. And it is a conversation. That's why we say Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvad. That Bhagavad Gita is what? A dialogue between the Lord and Arjuna. It is not that it is a discourse by Bhagwan for 700 chapters, 700 shlokas. No, Bhagwan Sri Krishna very patiently answers the questions. And that is what a teacher's should be, that no matter what question the student asks, the teacher should patiently allow the student to ask and then patiently answer. So it is a dialogue. And why is the student asking? There is no such thing as a stupid question. All questions are relevant because the student is asking from his or her point of view because they have doubts. I have a doubt, and therefore I'm asking the question. And the teacher's obligation or responsibility is to completely clear the doubts. So the one way is, of course, by asking question. Other way is to contemplate upon this teaching and clear my inner doubts. And if they are not clear, then to ask the teacher. So that is the purpose of asking question, to remove my doubt. And as I said, the question should be pertinent. Not that you go to a spiritual master and ask him about the stock market, how can I make my stocks go up? No, you go to him and ask him about Brahman. You don't need to ask him about politics and this and that. I mean, of course you can talk, but the point is that when you approach a teacher, your question should be with humility and appropriate question. And also we can see that Arjuna has been listening. He has not been sleeping. See, he has not fallen asleep in these 18 shlokas. He has been listening with attention. So his questions are very pertinent. That what are the qualities of a person? How does he work? And how can I also reach that? So what we see that the word linga is used by Arjuna. Linga means a symbol, like we have Shiva linga. Bhagwan Shiva is represented in that stone, in that symbol. Linga means the indicator. So in that stone represents the formless aspect of Lord Shiva. One form is he is sitting in meditation. The formless is he is all pervading. Like I see a piece of cloth, you say, it's just a piece of cloth. But when I see the three colors, orange, white, and green with that blue circle, I say, this represents my mother, Mother India. Or you see the stars and stripes, this represents, the great United States. So that piece of cloth indicates something else, indicates my country or indicates, a form of God. So similarly, what are the qualities that will indicate to me that this person is realized? Not again to judge anybody, but for me to imitate, for me to also grow. And what we see, that one who has reached that, he becomes a great force for blessing the world. Why? Because he lives ever in that calmness. And that is one of the qualities that these people become great force for improvement, and they never die. See, that's as we talked about, they attain immortality, and even their thoughts make us calm, make us peaceful. Forget about, even if they are gone, but the books they have left, the teachings they have left. Puja Gurudev dropped, he attained Mahasamadhi in 1993, but still we study his books, watch his videos. Why? Because he is still there amongst all of us. That's why Puja Gurudev says, he says, whenever you think of me, you want me, close my eyes, I will be there. Because these Mahatmas become one with that totality, and I just have to close my eyes and feel God's presence or the Guru's presence. But one who doesn't function with this becomes a puppet. And that's what they say, that if you become a puppet of the Gunas, that this world is giving me sorrow and I'm a puppet. So either you can live as a puppet or live as a puppeteer, as a master. That the world is functioning, but I am beyond And same thing for my body. I don't become any more a victim of the world. I don't let the tyranny of the world bother me. And another thing in Arjuna's question, in the second chapter also he had asked, Sthita pragnasya ka bhasha, samadhistasva keshava, sthitadi kim prabhashet, kim asit vrajeta kim. So what are the indication of a sthita prajna, man of wisdom? How does he function in the world? How does he talk? How does he walk? How does he sit? How does he function? But here Arjuna adds to that question, how can I become that? See, not only how can I recognize, but how ati vartate, how can I, or how can an individual who at this moment is caught in the world go beyond that? So this we see that Arjuna asks three very beautiful questions. So in today's teaching, just to summarize, Bhagavan talked about the three gunas, that they will do the activity, but a wise person always keeps attention on the witness, on the consciousness, which is the substratum, and watches the activity of the Prakriti and does not let the world tyrannize him, because I am complete. I am abiding in this knowledge that I am Brahman, I am that. And also we see Arjuna's questions, three questions. What are the signs of a wise person? How can I recognize him? How can I see them in action? And that's what they say, when you see these wise people, how they function in the world, and how can I also attain to that state of wisdom? So these are the three shlokas we covered today, very practical, very useful. Thank you all. We have a time today. So if anybody has any comments, any questions, anything you would like to add, the Gurudev has done so much in his commentary. I wasn't able to cover as much, but I would encourage everybody to read. And if anybody would like to add, please feel free to do that. Thank you. Hari Om.
I think another point I really liked was that this ego, that I, that we feel, individuality that we are, this is also part of gunas. So that itself is a very, to whom we give reality and we think that is real, is itself a gunas part.
Right.
So that is, once you realize that, then it is just because it is just a reflection of consciousness. It's like reflection of sun in the bucket of water is not sun. It's just a reflection. Same way this I, the ego, is a part of gunas. So
Right.
So that is why we feel all these problems, because the problems of the body is my problem of because it's all that. So that point I thought was very important.
Thank you. Yeah. So that this ego is nothing but the three gunas, and it is a fictitious entity. It is an illusion, actually has no reality. Just as a wave has no reality, it is just water. So this ego has no, but we give so much importance, as Neeru said, to this reality, but actually it is fictitious.
Actually, that is what they say, die to live. Die means you die to this I, and then you live as a God man on this earth.
Right.
Which is very rare.
Very rare.
That's what Gurudev said, God man on earth is very rare.
Right. Yeah, person who, and that's why we remember them, even hundreds and thousands of years later, these realized masters, we can never forget them because of their amazing contributions to society. Thank you. Anything else?
Anilji,
Hanji.
in shloka number 19, you explain that rajas people, for their happiness, they steal or cheat or do anything to get what they want. This stealing and cheating, does it come to the tamas?
Yeah, it is rajas mixed with tamas.
Yes.
So see, rajas is required for achievements, to build a factory, to start a business,
Activity.
So activity is required. We are not saying that one should, but the activity, whether it is guided by sattva or by tamas. So rajasic person, if he is doing work, but his motive is clear, is for the benefit of society, then such a politician, such a leader, such a businessman will contribute positively. But if his rajas is mixed with tamas, as Auntie was asking, if it is mixed with negativities, then such a person becomes a destructive force in society. So rajas is required for activity, but what is guiding the rajas? Is it sattva or is it tamas?
Our Gurudev was, his activity, he did so much, but it was for the welfare of all of us.
Right.
So it is, is the best example.
Yes, yeah, he slept 3 hours at night and, and functioned so beautifully. Yeah, Auntie, any other comments you have?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Yeah, Lata, go ahead, please.
You brought up Ravana earlier when you were describing it. He was such a knowledgeable individual.
Yes.
He got so much. So why then he ended up the way it is?
In fact,
What are the factors that were brought his demise? You say.
Yeah.
And
In
at the
fact,
same token, I have one more question. I will reverse that. There are stories in the epics where a bad person at the end thought of God and turned around. What is the dichotomy in these two situations?
He also,
yeah, see, he actually was a great scholar. He actually composed a hymn in praise of Lord Shiva. Right. Which is one of the masterpieces of Sanskrit poetry. Amazing. I don't actually remember it. It's very long. But he had great devotion for Lord Shiva. He had great knowledge. He had himself studied the scriptures. He had, even composed. But the thing was that it was guided by arrogance. See, he became very arrogant, where he said, I can lift Mount Kailash. He had got so much power that he actually lifted Mount Kailash, and then Lord Shiva just put his thumb and immediately, came down on him. So that's why he says he's the one who has destroyed Ravana Darpa Vinasha. Right. That in Lingashtakam we say that Ravan Darpa Vinashana Lingam. So he had arrogance, and his motive for getting knowledge was not to serve the world, but to dominate the world. I should be able to dominate all the 3 worlds. So he even could attack the devas. He could go to the lower worlds and this earth. So his motive, like Hiranyakashipu, also did so much tapas. But their motive was, so it is, that's what God, they say God looks at your motive, not at your actions. Outwardly, the actions may appear good or bad, but if your motive is good, that's why they say the means is as important as the goal. See, you may have a noble goal, but to achieve that, say you collect money by cheating or by lying, then the motive is not. Motive may be good. I mean, the goal may be good, but if the motive is bad or the means is bad, so his purpose of getting these siddhis, this power, was to dominate the world, not to help society. See, so that's why he had to be destroyed. Otherwise, he was menace not only to the earth, but also to the heavens, also to the lower worlds. Same way Hiranyakashipu also. That's why Bhagwan appeared as Narsimha, appeared as Sri Rama, appeared as Sri Krishna, to that paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya cha duskritam. Bhagwan says, dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. I come again and again to remove evil and establish dharma. So these people, their motive is wrong, and if the motive is wrong, the results will be wrong. So, and then people who have turned over, probably it was Lord's grace or Guru's grace, or maybe they had in the back of their mind that this is not right. And they turn at the end and they say that, whatever is your last thought, but I don't think you can go beyond all your karmas. Whatever karmas you have done, you have to undergo. But at least if your mind is turned towards God, that itself is a great plus point. And that will only happen if you have been thinking of God throughout your life. Last week I told the story about that guy
Right.
with the 11 pandits chanting.
The guy who, even his son, he
His-
took his name.
Named Narayan.
So that person got it. Maybe he had a
Previous accomplishment, because there was this this person who had
Yeah.
named his son Narayana, and he thought about Narayana. But again, these are rare examples. Generally, karmas, you get what you have done. I feel that you cannot escape this law of karma. All the good karmas will be blessed, and all the bad karmas you will get. And it's not God giving. He has established this karma phala data. He has established this, but ultimately I have to undergo myself. So,
Right. And also on Shloka 20, you said Dehi, and those were two meanings. One is the Atman or consciousness identified with body as one meaning. What was the other meaning?
other
of
meaning
Dehi?
is this jiva, this individuality, this
Oh, okay.
mind, intellect,
Cause of
vasana package, which thinks I am this individuality and occupies this body. And at the time of death, it is the subtle body which departs and goes
Right.
to other world. So that is also called Dehi in different
Oh.
places. But here it refers to
Pure Dehi.
Navadware Pure
Pure
Dehi
Dehi.
Naiva Kurvan Nakarayan. So this Dehi is this occupier that occupies this body, lives in this body.
Right.
And at the time of death, the jiva who leaves.
And also you elaborated a little more that the whole world creation functions based on these three gunas,
Yes.
plus and minus of it, not just the humans, but the everything in the
Everything is made up of
Right, right.
Creation is nothing but these three gunas.
Gunas. Like in a rock, it is predominantly tamas, right? There is no movement. Then in plant, there is some movement, it grows, and then it can grow towards sunlight. So there is a very subtle minimum intellect. So
Mhm.
slowly we see that the beings are evolving as their intellect and mind evolves. And then
Subtle
it
body.
grows into animals, and then, birds and fish, and then ultimately humans. So yeah, we are all made of three gunas. It is which one is predominant in
Right, right.
each being. Yeah.
Yeah,
But the
and
whole
then
Prakriti is made of gunas. Yes.
right, and the predominance of sattvic, which is the it's you have to make an effort to be in that mode, isn't it? And
Yes.
that's when you gain then the knowledge comes much more easily.
Yeah.
That's what you
That's why it's
indicate.
in a patra.
Right. Yeah. Like Neeru said, the patra, if the vessel is clean, then you can pour milk in it. If the vessel is dirty or contaminated.
Guruji gave a beautiful definition of patra. He said, patra, that which protects you from falling down. Patra means that it's like you want to carry a water. You cannot just carry it. You need a glass. So glass becomes a patra. And it doesn't allow the water to fall, right? So same way you become a patra of your mind should become pure, like sattvic. Then this knowledge will come and stay there.
Right. And then you won't fall.
You won't
The
fall.
career.
So
Very
patra
good.
means
Thank you.
that.
So many questions I had. I appreciate the answers.
Thank you. No
Patra is a
problem.
beautiful, that which prevents you from
Falling.
patati, Guruji.
Na patati. Right.
Na patati.
Good.
So it's
Okay.
beautifully. Narad Bhakti Sutra, I'm listening. Beautiful.
Yeah, if you haven't heard Narad Bhakti Sutra, please
Go to Chinmaya channel
Chinmaya
and listen
channel.
to.
They're only half-an-hour episodes, but very well covered.
There are 30 episodes, half an hour. Listen to them. They are beautiful on Parabhakti.
But highest bhakti plus knowledge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Thank you. Moini auntie, you have any other comments? Questions?
What is sattvic in the nature, prakriti, in prakriti?
Sattvic, you see what happens is
Just a stone is tamas.
tamasic, but what happens
Stone
is
is
the
tamas.
right, but the mind and intellect is made out of the sattvic. See, the prakriti has three aspects: sattva, rajas, and tamas. If you read Tattva Bodha, they talk about the apanchikrit Pancha
All the
Mahabhuta.
elements are made up.
All the elements are in
Yeah.
their unmanifest form, and the sattvic aspect of that becomes the mind and intellect and the ability to see. The rajasic aspect becomes the ability to think, to function, to work in the world, the ability to work. And the tamasic aspect is this gross body. So the mind intellect is the sattvic. Rajasic is the ability, the neurological system which makes me function, the organs of action. And the tamasic is this gross body. So we are a mixture of all three. Sattvic is the mind and intellect and the ability to think.
So 5 koshas are there.
Right.
The Annamaya kosha is the gross.
No, in nature, in Prakriti, you were saying that, in nature, you were saying that rock is sick. When the trees move, that is Rajasic. But
Yes. Yeah,
what
but
indicates is
so you see the
Any movement.
movement or growth represents rajas. So inactivity is tamas. When
Yes.
there is movement or growth, that is represents rajas. But when there is knowledge, that is sattva. So the ability to think, the ability to get knowledge is sattva. So sattva is knowledge, rajas is activity, and tamas is inactivity. And all three, we are a mixture of all three. So we have the sattvic, the mind and intellect, we have the ability, and then we have this gross body, which is tamas. But they are all required. It's not that one is not, all three are needed, but the question is, how can I, using this knowledge, stay in sattva as much as possible? At night to sleep, you need tamas. Otherwise, you won't fall asleep if your mind is overactive. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Anybody has any?
Anilji,
Hanji.
may I have a copy of the Aarti that we sing at the end? I don't have that Aarti.
Okay, what we can do is record it and put it on the WhatsApp.
She just needs a copy. We can send it to you.
You want to send it?
We will send it to you.
We'll just put it on the WhatsApp.
You have Umanji's number, phone number. We'll just take a copy and send it.
Yeah, I'll put it on the WhatsApp, the Tatra Studio and that.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Okay, we can chant. Om na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhanti kuto yamagnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. Boliye Shri Krishna Chandra Bhagavan ki jai. Arati Shri Chinmaya Sadguru ki Devya Rupa Murati Karuna ki. Arati Sadguru ki चरणों में उनके शांति समाए. शरणागत की भ्रांति मिटाए. पाप ताप संताप हरण की. आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की. आरती सद्गुरु की. वेद उपनिषद गीता को गाया. धर्म सनातन फिर से जगाया. शुद्ध नीति प्रीति शंकर की. आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की. आरती सद्गुरु की. सिद्ध बाड़ी की तपो भूमि में नित्य विराजे गुरु हमारे. भक्त हृदय आनंद श्रोत्र की. आरती श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरु की. आरती सद्गुरु की.
आरती सतगुरु की।
बोलिए श्री सतगुरुनाथ महाराज की जय. Everybody can please take the आरती. कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय, मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. हरि ओम. श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरि ओम. Thank you. Hari Om. See you next week. Hari Om.